Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very exciting video, so I'm going to be going over the very best gear loadouts for level 1300 and what skills to use and what runes to use, but I will cover the runes very quickly because I just made a full rune tier list breakdown. If you want to watch stuff that goes mainly over runes, make sure you check out that video. But anyways, I'm going to be going over the best gear loadouts, the second best, and the third best, not only the tip of the iceberg, because I know not everybody is going to be super duper hardcore when it comes to grinding gear. Anyways, let's quickly hop into it. So for weapons, of course, you're just going to use whatever has the most damage. So the ones you should be looking out for is first Guardian of Time. All of these will be from EOT. This thing gives you 1,475,000 damage and is very easy to get. Next is President. It gives 1,775,000 damage. This is also incredibly easy to get. And then Nihility is a little bit harder to get, but it does give a lot more damage at 2,350,000. It is very, very effective and looks great. Then of course the very best weapon in the game possible is Infinity, though this is incredibly difficult to get through either trading or even getting it dropped in EOT. It gives 3,750,000 damage, which is truly fantastic. That just does a ton of damage and is by far the best weapon in the game, although it is a struggle to get. So your vanities, of course, do not matter. Use whatever you want. Hello, Phantasmal. How are you doing? So vanities do not matter, of course. See ya, Phantasmal. And we're going to quickly hop into first the defensive loadouts, because no matter what, you will always use your highest damage weapon. And then, of course, use a tier 5 pet gem or whatever your highest pet gem is at all times. Anyways, so there's a lot of ring choices. The first one I'm going to cover actually comes from Hardcore Hive, and this is the Acidic Ring. So it gives you 10 speed and 195,000 HP, which is pretty decent, although the best ring for defense is a lot better than that, and that is of course gonna be the good old Released Energy of Space. This is way better for defense. It gives you a whole million HP with 5 speed. And of course, you can always use the Gauntlet of Anticipation for defense for that 1 speed and 750,000 HP, but I would definitely recommend you try to get the Release Energy of Space. But if this is a little bit too difficult, this is one of those hardcore EOT crafting items, the Gauntlet of Anticipation is probably going to be your second best option. This is mainly just for the highest health possible. If you're struggling with speed, you can always use Tesla Ring. For that 30 speed, thus you lose so much health from doing so. Anyway, so your necklace, there is a lot of options. You can always use the Locket of Dark Matter. This is very easy to get. You get 5 speed and 500,000 points of health. Then of course you can use the Pendant of Gravity, which I highly recommend you go for. It is not hard to get, and as you can see, gives way more HP with only a little bit less speed. So you're getting 3 speed and 1.35 million health points. That is just so much on a necklace. So the Pendant of Gravity is not a struggle to get, and I'm sure a lot of you guys probably have it. Make sure you use this for defense. There is one thing a little bit better, which is the Binded Energy of Time, but for defense and support, it is literally only better by 2 speed. It gives the exact same amount of health at 1.35 million HP points. So this is by far the best necklace overall for defense, but it is very difficult to get, so don't worry if you don't have this. The Pendant of Gravity is plenty good. So there is a lot of armor choices you can go for. So of course, the Armor of the Dark Void is a fantastic choice with 10 speed, 40 defense, and 775,000 HP. It gives you so much of everything you need when you're a supportive player. You can always try something like the Cloak of Anti-Gravity, which gives you 40 defense and a little bit more HP, although you're not getting any speed. And then if you're really going for pure health, the Forceful Raiment is always a choice. However, if you do use this, you're losing 10 speed. You're getting 50 defense and 1.27 million HP points though, so you do make up for your loss of speed with HP points. Now, if you're gonna use this raiment, you can always do the classic strategy of counteracting how little speed you get by using the Tesla Ring. As you can see, my speed is brought up by quite a bit, but you do lose a lot of health because the Tesla Ring gives you practically no health. It is only good for its 30 speed. So, The auras that you want to be using nowadays is always going to be the recent Halloween event auras. They're the best. The Haunted Cape, Jacko Cape, or the Spooky Scarf. They are all the best. If you have the Golden Wings, use them. You could have only gotten that during the 2020 Easter egg hunt, and it is pretty much for only the most hardcore players there are. It's untradeable, so I'm not going to really talk about it. Make sure you use one of these auras because they are fantastic with that 15 speed and a little bit of HP points. And then your runes, you pretty much will use whatever loadout you're going to be going for. If you are a healer, you want to use the Rune of Life, with Blessing, Mending Sword, and then most likely Calamity. It does depend on what your team wants you to do. If they want you to be a protector or egg, of course, you're going to be using Safeguard, Cloak of Light, and probably Calamity Shout, although I have seen some people do Safeguard, Mending Sword, and Calamity Shout because of the Soul Rune strats, but it really is just preference of what your team wants you to do. And then if you're going to be a Silencer, of course, you're going to be using Lure, Jab, Calamity, and either Safeguard or Mending Sword. Again, it just depends on what your team's overall strategy is. So as you guys can see, this is pretty much the best defensive stats you can get in the game. There are some adjustments you can make, like the armor. If you think 15 speed is too little, you can always switch the armor out for something like the Cape of Pressure to get a little bit more speed with only a little bit less health. This is typically my defensive gear loadout. You get 35 speed, 45 defense, and 3.1 million HP points. However, if you're going hardcore HP points with the Forceful Raiment, you can get up to 3.6 million HP points, but only 15 speed, but you do get 55 defense. And honestly, even if you're not using the most hardcore gear in the game, like let's say Gauntlet of Anticipation and then Pendant of Gravity instead, you're still going to get a monstrous 3.3 million HP and 55 defense, just your speed really suffers. So you really don't need the best of the best gear to be an effective supportive player. So now we're going to go over more of the offensive gear. So the offensive gear in the game, it is a little bit more difficult because you really do need the best gear in the game to be super effective DPS. But anyways, again, just use your highest damage weapon. And then rings, there are a lot of choices. If you're going for a crit strat, you can do Tesla Ring, although I don't recommend you do that anymore. The Ring of Gravity is a great choice because you get 125 crit and 215,000 attack. It is basically a better version of Tesla with less speed. This is always a great choice. And then if you're going for the absolute best offensive ring, I'm going to say that's the Gauntlet of Anticipation because you get 750,000 attack with 10 crit. Now, in my opinion nowadays, it is a little bit better to go for massive attack points than it is to go for critical, but it is really up to the player. Now the necklace, there is a couple of choices. You can use the Necklace of Infinite Energy, which is very easy to get with 935,000 attack points, although you're getting absolutely no critical from it. So if you are using a ring, if you're using this necklace, I do suggest you combo it with something like the Ring of Gravity so you make up for the critical, because obviously the Ring of Gravity gives 125. But anyways, the absolute best offensive necklace in the game is of course going to be the Binded Energy of Time with that ridiculous 1.5 million attack and 15 crit and 5 speed. It is by far the best overall item in the game in my opinion, and it is just absolutely amazing for DPS. The last thing you could use if you're struggling with the other things is the Locket of Dark Matter, because 500,000 attack and 500,000 HP is great. It is essentially a slightly worse version of the Gauntlet of Anticipation. So the armor, there is a couple of choices. Again, the Armor of the Dark Void is viable because you get 415,000 attack with a lot of HP. However, in my opinion, the best two armors for offense is either the Cloak of Anti-Gravity because you get 65 critical with still 125,000 attack, and as you can see, this brings my crit to 142 with 6.1 million attack, which is fantastic, although the speed does suffer quite a bit. As you can see, my speed is only around plus 21 when you do this loadout. However, I do slightly recommend you use the Cape of Pressure over this because you're going to get a little bit more speed. As you can see, plus 10, and you get 605,000 attack. However, when you use this, your critical suffers a lot. You only get plus 82, which is not very good crit chance. However, in my opinion, it is definitely better to go for way more attack, because with this setup you're getting a solid plus 31 speed with a ton of attack, and still you do crit a lot. You can get unlucky sometimes and get a long streak of not critting, but for the most part this is the best offensive DPS loadout in the game. Now for DPS runes, there is a lot of choices. It really depends on what you're doing. Rune of the Azure Phoenix, great for solo. You can always just do the Havoc, Calamity, Mooncutter strategy. This is fantastic for solo. You can always use the Rune of Insanity, where you do the same Havoc, Calamity with Heaven Splitter. Amazing combination. And then a lot of people like to use the Light Rune and Snow Angel Rune in team play. Of course, you can always do this. You can use Heaven Splitter, Piercing Strike, Havoc, depending on how hardcore your team is, to where your supportive players Calamity you, or you can use Calamity yourself. It really does just depend on what your team wants to go for. Now, I'm not going to go too into depth on the runes, obviously, because I made a whole video about them recently. And then, of course, the Soul Rune is great for DPS. However, for the Soul Rune, it is very unique. You want to simply go for the most health possible, which is going to be this loadout right here, which gives you 3.6 million HP, and basically this thing's affected by the more health you have, the more damage it does. And then of course with this you're going to be using Blessing, Calamity, and probably Flurry. Anyways guys, these are the best gear loadouts in the game right now. Comment down below if you agree or if there's anything I should have done differently, and please have a great rest of your day. Bye!